In this video, we're going to be writing the CSS for all our buttons. So far, we have been assigning some button classes to our buttons, but we haven't been defining the CSS for these classes. So let us do that now. Now, these button classes are going to be used all across the website. So we are going to define them or their styles under the default section in our CSS file. Okay, so we'll scroll to the end of this section and we'll define our BTN class. Okay, we'll give it a background color of this color I prepared behind the scenes. We'll give it a border of 1 pixel solely transparent. Then we'll give it a padding top and bottom of 0.65 rem and then left and right of 1.5 rem. We set text align to center, then text decoration to none. And remember, we are going to be using this button on link elements. That is, when we want to style a link element to look like a button, we'll use this class. So in that case, we want to undo the underline effect on that link element. I think we'll need to add the important flag here so that we can override it in some cases. Now we'll do display of inline block. This will enable us to properly display the button in an inline scenario. We'll set the font size to 1 rem. We probably don't need this since 1 rem is essentially the default font size. We'll give it a border that is slightly round, so we'll set border radius to 3 pixels and then white space we'll set it to no wrap. So it shouldn't wrap to the next line whenever the text on it is a bit too long. So instead, the button should extend in width to accommodate the long text. And then lastly, we'll give it a white color. That is, the text on the button should have a white color. Now let us refresh this. Remember, we did assign the BTN class on our save button. Alright, so this is what the default button looks like. And usually with buttons, there's good user experience to kind of change the styles on the button a little bit when the user hovers on it. Alright, so we're going to define another style for hover on this particular button. And we'll set the background color to something slightly grayer or slightly darker in its gray. And the color remains white. So let us refresh. And you can see that the background color darkens a little bit when you hover on it. So that is it for the default button. We can now go ahead and define the various sizes for this button. So we have the sizes that are available. We have small BTN for a button that's slightly small. We have big BTN for big buttons. We have long BTN for buttons that occupy the entire width of their container. And these are basically the sizes we have available. Alright, so to modify their sizes, we are only going to change the padding on the button. For a small button, we are going to give it a padding of 0.45 rem top and bottom, and then 1.25 rem left and right. Alright, I'm going to leave it at changing only the padding. That is, we'll reduce only the padding of the button. I think if you want to be more elaborate, you can even reduce the font size and so on, but I'm just going to leave it at reducing the padding. For the big BTN, we're going to give it a minimum width of 150 pixels, and then we'll give it a padding of 0.85 rem top and bottom, and then 1.5 rem left and right. And then of course for the long button, we'll just give it a width of 100%. And that's all. Also, we might want to make sure it has a kind of big property, because a tiny button that's long is not very good. Okay, so let us refresh. And since we gave this button a class of, let me see, big BTN, these styles are also taking effect, and that is why it has increased in size. So that is all about the sizes. The next thing we need to style now is the colors, and we gave it a few classes to represent the colors. One of them is primary button. This will have a bluish color. The other one is warning BTN. It will have a kind of orangish color. Then we have danger BTN. It will have a reddish color. And I think these are all the colors we are going to be using. For the primary button, it will have a background color of this color I prepared in the background. For the warning, it will have a background color of. And lastly, for the danger BTN, it's going to have a background color of this reddish color. And each of them, all of them are going to have a color of white. So let us assign a color of white. And then let us refresh. And now this is a primary BTN, and you can see it has a bluish color. And since we gave a hover effect on the BTN, and the primary button also has that BTN, when you hover on the button, we are still seeing the hover effect for that default BTN. So we need to change this, and to change that, we will need to assign it a default color for, or rather a hover style for primary BTN. Okay, so let us do that right now. So we are going to have a hover effect for all three buttons. So the primary button, let us write its selector for hover. The other one is the warning button. Let us write its own hover selector. And lastly, danger. Okay, for the primary button, the background color when you hover on the button is going to be this color, and that is it for primary. The next one is warning. We'll give it a background color of, and lastly we have the danger. The danger color, we'll give it a background color of. Actually these things, I can actually just choose it here, something like this. Okay, now let us refresh. And when you hover on the primary button, you now see that it has a bluish color that's more intense than the normal blue color. And we can go to our manage posts page, and the two buttons we assigned to, and the two buttons we placed on top of the table are now having the styles for the classes that we assigned to them. Now I think these icons do not align well with the text on the buttons, so I want us to write some CSS for this particular icon on the button to make it align vertically with the text. So we are going to add another selector BTN icon. Remember, for all icons or for all buttons that have an icon, we did add a class of icon on the button. So it is this icon, or it is this class that we are selecting. So for this particular icon, we will give it a font size of 1.2 rem, and then we will say vertical align or center. Okay, let us refresh, and it looks better. Oh, let me see. You know what? I'm actually going to use our transform instead of vertical align. We are translating in the y-axis, and let me just see 3 pixels, and let's see how that works. Okay, so I think it looks better now. Alright, and I believe that is all about the styles for our buttons. So in the next video, we are going to be replacing the text area here with our text editor. All right, so see you in the next video.